Hello and welcome to the Voices of the Vic podcast with me, Ben Aiton and James Batchelor. You can tell by the smile on my face, Watford have won a game for the first time in 3 months. I think it was 91 days since our last victory, which was back in November when we beat Manchester United 4-1. But Watford have travelled to Villa Park yesterday afternoon and picked up 3 vital points to try and push towards survival in the Premier League this season. To talk to me about it all is my co-host James Batchelor. James, how are you doing? I've noticed you've not got as big as the smile as I've got on, but how are you doing, mate?
No, I'm all good. Look, the smile's here. Very, very happy with the win. A little bit frustrated that Burnley won, obviously, and Newcastle picked up points against West Ham. I think that made me obviously I'm happy with the win, but them two winning didn't really help. But yeah, really happy with the result. It's something to build on. Crystal Palace on Wednesday, and yeah, just overall, I've just forgotten what it felt like to win a game, really. So from my perspective, I'm very happy, and I probably should be happier. But it's been so long since we won. I don't really know what to feel. So yeah.
It's a weird feeling, isn't it, James? Like you say, it's been so long since we've actually experienced a victory. It's like this is new to us again. This is what winning football matches feels like. And oh mate, I was absolutely buzzing when we picked up those 3 points yesterday. Especially seeing like, at one point in the day, I think we actually dropped to the bottom of the table because the results were going against us. I think even Norwich were 1-0 up at Anfield, and then we saw Burnley pick up big 3 points with a 3-0 victory at Brighton as well. So it was a must-win game for Watford. And I know you've said this lately, James, that every game's must-win now for Watford. But yesterday, especially with those results that was coming in, we really needed those 3 points, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got to half-time, obviously, and I looked at the Burnley result. I think they were 2-0 up at that point against Brighton, and I was a little bit worried then because if the results, as they were stood, as you say, Watford would have been 20th. So it was vital that we picked up the 3 points. I know Dennis mentioned in his post-match interview that I don't think Roy Hodgson was very happy at half-time, and he might have said a few swear words to the players. But yeah, it was absolutely vital we won, obviously, and it's 3 points. We've done the double over Aston Villa, by the way, which is absolutely mental, considering the form we've been on lately. But yeah, I'm happy. Obviously, I would have much rather Burnley and Newcastle didn't pick up points though.
And if you're not too sure about what James is on about with Emmanuel Dennis's interview, I think he did an interview live on BBC, and they asked him how it's going under Roy Hodgson, and he said that Royce is came in and he's brought in a lot of experience, and he actually said that one of the first things that he said was, "We're in a fucked situation." It just live on BBC as well, so it was broadcast across the whole country, across the world. I just thought that's absolutely brilliant. It reminded me of the times when Micah Richards, I think he scored a goal on like his debut or something for Manchester City, didn't he? I think it was about 16, 17-year-old, wasn't given like media training. He was just saying that he was fucking buzzing after scoring, and seeing that just reminded me of it. And it's absolutely class. But yeah, great performance for Watford yesterday, much needed, especially after Brighton, where we was all disappointed. And I'm sorry that me and James chewed your ear off last week and used the podcast as a bit of a counselling session. But if anything, it works. Maybe the players listened to it and watched it. So yeah, you're welcome, boys. But yeah, let's start with the team news for starting lineup. There was 2 changes to Watford team. Out went Kushka and KMB, and in came Ismail Assar and also Imran Louza. So Watford actually went back to a 4-3-3 formation, which I welcome because the 4-4-2 in the last previous games hasn't been great. So we actually brought that attacking side to us back to the starting lineup. So we had Ben Foster in goal, Kiko Femminia, Craig Cathcart, Samir and Kamara. And then the midfield 3 was Tom Cleverley, Imran Louza, Sissoko, and up front was Ismail Assar, Joshua King and Emmanuel Dennis. James, we knew what Ismail Assar brings to the team, and I think we saw that yesterday. He was a much welcome addition into the side. I think I saw last time Watford actually won a game, Star started, and his first game back and started, we've won the game again. The boy just hits the ground running, doesn't he? And you know what he brings, and he got an assist back yesterday. He was unlucky not to have 2 assists actually, with Emmanuel Dennis's shot being well saved by Martinez. But how vital was it to have Ismail Assar starting from the off?
I think it's no coincidence that the last two matches Watford have won. Ismail Assar obviously started in both and contributed to both. It was a ridiculous assist yesterday. I actually thought, Sarr messed up the move, to be honest, because he stood still for such a while, and I think he was trying to play with a defender, and he whips that fantastic ball in for Dennis, and great finish by Dennis as well. But as you say, Ismail Assar is obviously I think he's a Champions League quality player. He's absolutely fantastic. He's obviously going to leave Watford this summer. I think that's apparent to everyone. So what I would say is just enjoy him while we've got him, and hopefully with the quality he's got, he can keep Watford, in the Premier League for another season.
100%, mate. It was much welcome to see him back, and it was just a pace that he brings to the side, wasn't it? When he stretches his legs and he gets Watford going and getting us up the pitch, like we saw in the first half. The moment I think he spun his man and then just set us on the attack and played in the ball into Emmanuel Dennis. It was like, we've missed this. Like, we've had Emmanuel Dennis on one side of his pace, but to have Sarr back on the other side, it gives both of the fullbacks of the opposition something to think about. And I thought the fullbacks really struggled against Watford's attackers yesterday. But Imran Louza as well, James, finally he starts again for Watford. Watford fans know what he brings to the side. It's difficult when managers change all the time, which we've chatted about last week, and they've got to learn about the players that they've come to in the squad. But obviously, Imran Louza was on African Cup Nation duty with Morocco, so Roy Hodgson probably didn't see much of him until the last couple of weeks. But his half-time edition last week against Brighton, he put in a really good performance. I think Roy Hodgson said last week, saying after the game yesterday, saying how impressed he was against Brighton last week with his introduction, and he had to start against Villa. He's got to start every single game now, doesn't he, James? He was phenomenal.
Absolutely. I think he's, exactly what we've been missing since Will Hughes left. And I know they play slightly different roles and slightly different positions, but the tenacity, the passing ability, driving forward, not always looking to go back to Ben Foster. He drives forward. He's looking for these, massive passes to play, and he gets them pretty much bang on, every time he plays them. So Imran Louza is a class act, isn't he? He's absolutely fantastic. Like Hassan Kamara, I think they just get the club, they get what we're about. They understand what the fans want. So as you say, he's obviously a must start. I think there's only a few players in the squad who you could say have to start every week. Dennis, Louza, Kamara, and Samir are probably them players. Obviously, Ismail Assar as well. He's absolutely fantastic, and obviously he does have to start every week, every game from now until the end of the season.
Yeah, start him even if he's got one leg for me, mate, because he's that good. Like you say, I love how he doesn't automatically think about it. He gets the ball and takes it back to Ben Foster. His first thought is to calm it down and then maybe get the ball forward. And it's not like he just gets the ball and passes it on. He travels with the ball, and we don't have many midfielders that are comfortable with the ball at their feet and can travel and beat men. And yesterday, his composure, where he picked Sarr out for the goal as well, where he checked back, composed himself, looked up, saw Sarr on the other side of the penalty box, pinned a pinpoint ball accuracy over to him, and that's a vision that Watford need. And we've seen it in games before where he likes to. He's a bit like a quarterback, I think he is sometimes, where he just sits in that in front of the back four and he just pings balls across, and we haven't seen that quality for so long. So
it's so young as well, Ben. I think he's only 22 years old. So he's only.
Oh, is that what it is? 22. Jesus.
Yeah, only 22.
That's mental. But yeah, he has to start every single week now for me. It's been phenomenal. And he can't be dropped after that performance. Roy, he has to play him. He was, I'd say, maybe joint man of the match. I'm going to throw another one there now to you, James. And it's not Emmanuel Dennis, even though he did get the goal. But I was so impressed with Craig Cathcart. And like we've said before, in maybe the last 3-4 months, we haven't really had any faults to put on Craig Cathcart's name. He's been consistently good. I think he's been consistently like a 6.5, 7 out of 10 each game. Yesterday for me, it was probably about an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. I know he probably let Ings behind him once, and that's when Ings hit the post. But apart from that, he was very good. Do you agree? Do you think he's been really good lately?
I think it's been our best defender this season. You've seen William Schuster-Kong come in and out the side. Sirielta's not really, made his place permanently in the team. And Craig Cathcart has been there throughout all of our defensive struggles. And, he's been the one, consistent centre-back, in the team throughout this season. And he's kind of aged like a fine wine. Yes, I think he is 33, 34 years old. So, you know, he can't play, you know, this well for, you know, for the next 5-6 years. He is coming towards the end of his career, and Watford will have to look for a replacement at some point. But, you know, yesterday especially, you know, for the whole of the season he's been good, but yesterday, you know, he was dominant. He actually, you know, played some really good passes yesterday as well. I just thought, you know, his all-round game was absolutely superb. So again, you know, like Ismaila Sarr is a must start, like Imran Luz is a must start. I think Craig Cathcart is as well, because as we've said, it's been superb this season.
100% must start at the moment, and I think it's down to the inclusion of Samir next to him, and I think they're forming a really good partnership at the back, and I'm very impressed with Samir as well. I think all Watford fans had their hearts in their mouth within the first 3 to 4 minutes when Ings was running into the box, and Samir, it looked like the penalty wasn't given, but he got a tiny touch on the ball, and that was enough for the referee to say no penalty, because it went to VAR, and they quickly dismissed it, didn't they, James? But what I didn't understand is, and it's a dangerous situation to do, is when football grounds show the replay on the big screens. They did it yesterday for the Villa decision. They played it on the big screens at Villa Park. The Villa fans saw it and they shouted straight away, going, penalty now, you seen that? And the players are seeing it. Steven Gerrard's seen it. And you shouldn't really be doing that. I think football clubs are advised not to do that. So the moment that was played on the big screens and I heard the eruption from the Villa fans, I thought, penalty, 1-0 down after 4 minutes, going to be a long afternoon. But luckily, VAR stepped in and said, no penalty. We're going to stick with the decision of the referee, and that was a much welcome relief. Because can you imagine, James, 4 minutes in, just conceding a penalty? It would have been what Watford have done in previous games, previous months.
Well, I actually quite like it when they show the replay on the screen, because how many times, Ben, have we been at Vicarage Road? You know, someone's put a challenge in. Let's say Adam Senior's put a challenge in on someone, right? A clumsy challenge. It might be a penalty. It might not be a penalty. In the stands, we're not quite sure what's going on. Whereas when they show the replay, even though obviously it might be controversial and it might get, you know, the crowd riled up, you know, at least the fans can get their own take on what actually happened and make their own decision. I do think it probably contributed to a more hostile atmosphere at Villa Park potentially. You know, the fans were obviously riled up after that decision not going their way. So in terms of, you know, showing VAR on the screens, I think they should do it at every football ground personally, because I think it, you know, in terms of transparency to the fans and why referees and VAR make their decisions, I think, you know, especially with offsides as well, I think, you know, a lot of fans, you know, when they draw the lines are a bit baffled sometimes. So I think they should probably do that going forward at every ground. I think Manchester United is probably the only ground that actually doesn't have a TV monitor. So maybe apart from Old Trafford, they can do it. They can show it at every game.
It would be interesting to see if they do actually look to do that in the future. Maybe like the decisions that have been like made and why they're saying it is not a penalty in that, and then show it on a big screen when it's like gone out of play next to something. It'd be interesting just to see, just where we know, because we don't actually know until we get home and put on Match of the Day. And James, Match of the Day, I actually pressed record last night and wanted to watch Match of the Day. I thought, brilliant. Watford have won a game. They're going to be talking about us, praising us. We haven't had that for ages. But yeah, brilliant stuff from Watford yesterday on Match of the Day, finally. It's been so long since we've been on Match of the Day. But James, in the first half, you were saying about the atmosphere and like maybe that decision went on the big screens and made it a bit hostile. But I thought maybe after about 20, 25 minutes, the frustration of the Villa Park fans, the Villa fans were starting to show onto a pitch and getting on the backs of the players. They weren't happy that Watford were containing Villa and making it difficult, and Villa weren't taking their chances.
Well, after that, obviously, I mean, we mentioned the penalty incident, but after that, really, we restricted Villa to you know, really, really long shots, really, you know, taking shots from 30, 35 yards out. You know, Ben Foster didn't really have a difficult save to make throughout the game at all. I can't really remember off the top of my head, you know, a world-class save that Ben Foster made. So I think defensively, we held quite a high line. You know, I just thought defensively we just looked a lot more solid than we had done previously. I think I read a stat. It was like we've kept as many clean sheets in the last 4 games as we had in the previous 36 games in the Premier League, which is crazy. But you know, that shows that Roy Hodgson's come in. He has solidified us. Yes, obviously, you know, it is frustrating to watch the football. Sometimes it is, you know, can be dull to watch. Obviously, I'd love to see us score more goals than we do. But ultimately, you know, Roy Hodgson has shut me up, because He got his tactics right yesterday. Defensively, we were more solid. We got the goal through Emmanuel Dennis, and we won the game 1-0 and quite comfortably, to be honest. Obviously, Aston Villa had a couple of chances through Danny Ings, but apart from that, that was it. So Roy Hodgson really has shut me up there.
Yeah, Roy Hodgson masterclass, and yeah, we both were very critical of him last week. But I do think the way we set up away from home, I think we might pick up more points on our road than we do at home. I do think it suits us a bit better away from home. If we play that kind of football at home, I think the fans might get a bit restless watching us. But away from home, when you set them up and you're looking to counter attack, I do think that's going to work more in our favour. And I wouldn't be surprised if we go to Old Trafford and get a result. I'm not saying a victory, but I do think a point is very realistic. And who knows? I know they picked up a victory today against Leeds, a 4-2 victory, but I wouldn't be surprised if Watford, if Roy Hodgson has another great game plan and snuffs out the Manchester United attacks. I wouldn't be surprised if we do come back with 3 points. But the victory yesterday, for me, James, it was we just stopped Villa from playing. I know Coutinho had a few opportunities from distance. I thought everything was coming through Coutinho, but we was quick to try and close him down and put him under pressure. But Watford under Roy Hodgson, it looks like we're defending the width of the penalty box, aren't we? We're making that middle of that park very compact, and it's difficult for any teams to pass through it. And the press was back yesterday. I thought every time a Villa player received the ball, we was quick out to them, and we was closing down the angles for him to make a pass or to have an actual shot on target. So that has impressed me with Roy Hodgson. He has. It does look like he's getting the commitment of the players. And do you think yesterday that we did see a lot of desire and passion from Watford players? Because in previous games, maybe especially against Brighton, we were saying we feel like there's not much of a connection to the players lately. But I think we've seen it yesterday that there is a bit more of a connection we've seen, especially with like Kamara, Dennis, Loser. They showed they really wanted that yesterday.
Well, you mentioned Kamara there. I think he's so instrumental to the back line, and God forbid he gets injured, because I think we'd be so lost about Hassan Kamara. He's an absolutely superb player. I'd say again, like Ismail Assar, he should be playing European football at a top club. He's fantastic, and Watford have got him for such a sniff at £4 million. So you're talking about the back line there, Ben. I think Samir, yes, he's come in and been good. Kiko's been good. Cathcart had a good game yesterday. Foster in recent weeks has been better, but ever since Hassan Kamara come in, I think that's kind of coincided with the lift in form and with the lift of defensive stability in the Watford back line. So for me, I'd pin a lot of these performances on Hassan Kamara, because he just adds so much attacking wise, defensively, the overlapping runs he makes is just I think is superb. So. Again, we do have talented players in this team. It's just about getting them to work together. And, Ismail Assar's come back. Kamara's here. Samir's here. Loser's back. João Pedro will be back soon. It is getting exciting. And, this is what a win can do. We're sitting here and, being really, really positive today. Whereas last week, as you say, we were having a right old rant. So, this win has really, has really lifted my spirits.
That's good to see, mate. But what we want with Watford and their signings is you want players to come in and hit the ground running, and that's what we've seen with Kamara, isn't it? And I'll throw Samir into that category as well. Bar that little mistake at Norwich at home where he tried to shield the ball out of play, and then the ball went into the back of the net from a lovely goal from Sargent. Apart from that, I don't think Samir's really put a foot wrong in a Watford shirt. So he's been really solid and improved that back line. He's definitely an upgrade on Truth Econ.
But he's naturally footed as well, Ben. I think we've been crying out for a naturally footed centre back for such a long time.
It adds to the balance of the back four, doesn't it? And it just makes them all look a bit more comfortable. And if the ball's going to go out onto the left-hand side to Samir and he's looking to clear it, he could clear that first time, no worries, not under pressure. Whereas maybe if it was a right-footed centre-back, they would have more of an issue trying to get rid of that ball. Maybe they'd want to take a touch and bring it down and bring it back to Foster. But Samir, he might control it or knock it out wide, and he would find a pass. And I'm quite impressed with his vision of passing it as well. I do think he can pick a pass. Like we've seen before with Truth Econ when he's in the back line, he tries to do that long ball, but it doesn't really come off for me sometimes. But when Samir does the diagonal ball, I'm really impressed with how he does pick out his man. But also, like I know we've named quite a few people who impressed us yesterday, James, and we spoke last week about Villa, and we was doing a preview saying about how Villa have got a spine of a side, and we couldn't really relate to that at Watford. But I think off the base of yesterday's performance and thinking about it out loud, that there is slowly a spine of this Watford side. And you just need to fill in those tiny areas around the pitch. Like obviously you got Ben Foster who's in goal, and I think since he's been back, he's been brilliant, and he's calmed down the Watford defence. If Batman was in goal still, he'll be throwing his toys out the pram every time we weren't getting out the box quick enough for him to throw the ball to. But he's just calmed things down, and the vocal presence of him as well has been brilliant. And then you've obviously got Samir and Cathcart, and I wouldn't change that partnership at all. So that's added to the spine. In midfield, you got Loser. He has to start every game now. And then up top, you've got Dennis and Sarr. I think King did an okay job yesterday, but I wouldn't put him in as that spine of a side yet. He's got to do more for me, James. Was you impressed with Joshua King yesterday? I thought first half he struggled. Second half he was a bit better.
I thought he was good. I thought he was better than he has been recently. I do think he should have scored. You know, he had that opportunity right in front of goal that, it was difficult because the goalkeeper was there. You know, he didn't really have anywhere to shoot apart from where he shot. I do think he should have done better there. Same with Dennis in the first half. I think they both should have scored. Sissoko had a good opportunity. I'm sure we'll mention that as well. Joshua King is just frustrating because Dennis is contributing, Sarr's contributing. Joshua King, isn't contributing in terms of goals and assists. I thought, he ran around a lot, which is, what I expect every Watford player to do. He made some good runs. He got in behind a couple of times. But in terms of a clinical striker, and scoring goals week in, week out, I don't think he is quite that. But he had good hold-up play. He laid the ball off to Sarr, Dennis at times. But yeah, as you say, I do want him to obviously start scoring more goals and contributing more to the team. But I thought he was better. It was definitely better than he was against Brighton, put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. And if he keeps on getting in his right areas like he did with that chance that was saved by Martinez, the ball, it will fall to him and he will score sooner or later. So I'm impressed with that. And his hold-up play, you can't fault it. He's not the biggest of guys, but the way he holds the ball up, I'm really impressed with him. And he does bring other people into play. Got a comment here from Paul. For everyone who's not watching on YouTube, we're live on YouTube again, and we've got a couple of comments that came up. And there's a comment from Paul Wittenbury, and he said the last 6 away wins have come under 6 managers is a crazy stat. Time for a change now so we can pick up the 7th win. I think James would welcome that. He's not Roy Hodgson's biggest fan, but 7th, that is a crazy stat, James, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I saw that stat the other day, and it just shows how poor we've been really in the Premier League in terms of away form, because that stat really is absolutely terrible. But I know I've criticised Roy Hodgson. I do have to give him credit for yesterday because it was overall a really good performance tactically from Roy and from the players. So yeah, forget my Roy slander for the moment. When we lose our next game, I'll bring it back up. But for now, I'll give Roy the credit, and Roy can go to sleep knowing that James Batchelor isn't going to be criticising him today.
And we've also got a message from the other co-host, Mike Duffy, who's unable to join us again tonight. But he's actually said that he's happy because we beat those Brummy buggers. Because obviously Mike's from Birmingham and he's not, can't really stand Birmingham or Villa, can he? So yeah, I'm glad Mike's happy, and I hope you're doing well, mate. And also, there's another comment as well. Said has said, how can you be live at the same time as WD18 on YouTube? I'd love to see a collaboration. Watford. I completely murdered that. But yeah, sorry that we're actually recording at the same time as the WD18 lads. We didn't know that was recording at 7 tonight when we arranged it, but this is the only time that I really have after putting Isla to bed. So I do apologise it clashes with them. But thank you for everyone who's watching at the moment. But yeah, James, back to the game. We've seen Emmanuel Dennis pick up his 9th goal of the season yesterday, a bullet header. Martinez had no chance, did he? And we said a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a Burnley game, wasn't it, when the ball whipped into the box, and I said to you, It was João Pedro with a header on goal, and I said to you, if that was Emmanuel Dennis there, he would have buried that, because we've seen how strong he is in the air and how good he is with that head. And he just showed it yesterday again. He's so dangerous when the ball's in the air, isn't he?
Oh, I think it made it even better as well, because it was Ashley Young actually who was marking Dennis. Obviously, Ashley Young, I'm sure everyone is aware who's listening to this, but Ashley Young, formerly of Watford, most recently Ashley Young scored them 2 goals at the Vic, and he celebrated in front of the Watford fans, and ever since then, Watford fans, haven't really liked Ashley Young very much whatsoever. So that made the goal better for me. The fact that Emmanuel Dennis got the better of Ashley Young, but yeah, you mentioned the header is absolutely superb in the air, deceptively good in the air actually, because I don't really think is that tall. If you give me a second, I'm just going to Google Emmanuel Dennis's height, because he's definitely under 6 foot, and for a guy under 6 foot, which he is, in the air, he's fantastic. I mean, we've seen João Pedro score a fantastic header against Newcastle. Dennis has scored one against Norwich. He scored one against obviously Aston Villa.
Yeah, we've scored a few aerial goals, haven't we? Like even like Kushku away at Everton away, won another one in the air. We have. I do wish we had more goals from set pieces. I wish we could beat that first man whenever we try and get a ball into a box from a corner, because it frustrates me so much. Like these professional footballers, it's like they train all week. Surely they dedicate half an hour or so to try and whipping in balls into a box. And I don't know what it is when it comes down to a match day, but it's the most frustrating thing as a fan is watching your team that can't beat a first man from a corner.
Well, what I would say is I was a bit baffled why Kiko Femini seemed to be taking a lot of our corners. If I was the manager of Watford, I'd probably put Imran Louza on the corners, just because we've seen how good he is at delivering the ball to players in tricky positions, and obviously Imran Louza, we've seen him on set pieces for his old club and for his country as well, and he looks really, really good. So if I was Roy, I'd probably look to swap Kiko out or Cleverly out for Louza on set pieces, because I think he'd definitely deliver the ball with a lot more quality, and obviously if we can get them players in the box like Dennis, like Kuchka, João Pedro as well, we can be a real threat. But I think, as you say, our goals from set pieces this season has been lacking, and it's something we need to improve on, because if we can sort that out, we can get an extra 3, 4, 5 goals a season that could contribute to keeping us up and getting us up the table. So I do think it's something that obviously we do need to work on.
Exactly, and especially with teams down at the bottom of the table where you're not really going to get many opportunities, and if it's tight still at 0-0, I think you use set pieces from like corners and free kicks as a bit of a weapon, and you get that ball into a box, and you really have to attack it and try and make the most out of that opportunity. Like we've seen before with like the past of like the Bolton teams under Sam Allardyce back in the Premier League, absolutely years ago. West Brom, like with Craig Dawson, he always used to attack the ball and always scored goals. But those kind of teams who were always towards the bottom of the tables, they would always make use of their set pieces, and it's just a shame that Watford don't really do that at the moment. Hopefully it changes. Hopefully Roy's seen that and he'll get him working on that more in the training ground. But James, have you found out how tall Emmanuel Dennis actually is?
I have, and I believe he is under 6 foot. Is 1 meter 75. So if I do the conversion quickly, 1 meter 75 in feet is 5'7". So Emmanuel Dennis 5'7". And for a guy who's 5'7", he's got a great leap on him, hasn't he? Bloody hell!
Even I'm taller than him, James, and you call me a bit of a short ass.
No, to be fair, when we met in real life, Ben, you are a very small man. So
a small man. To be fair, when I first met you, James, I wasn't expecting you to be so tall. I thought you was going to be this scrawny little kid, but you're actually quite tall.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment, I presume.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Anyway, yeah, Emmanuel Dennis picked up his 9th goal of the season. If I'm totally honest, I feel like Watford, we came away with a 1-0 victory, but it could have been more, and it should have been more. Could have easily been 2 or 3. Sissoko again. What was he thinking? I think his decision making in those final moments are really poor, James, and it just lets him down, because I did think it was an improved performance from him yesterday. I did say last week that I haven't been impressed with him, but yesterday I thought he turned up and was much better in that middle of the park. But whenever he gets into a penalty area, I'll give him credit. The ball was closer to the net this time, but he should have squared that to Emmanuel Dennis, and that would have been a tapping, wouldn't it, James?
Well, Sissoko does everything right apart from his final ball in the attacking third. I think that, at Newcastle, at Tottenham, I think all of their fans, when Sissoko was at them clubs, that was their one, criticism of him, that every time he had a shot, it would go 30, 40 yards over the bar. And, obviously, we didn't bring Sissoko in to be a goal scoring midfielder. But when he does get into them positions, when Emmanuel Dennis has a tap in and all he's got to do is square it across the box, that's what I expect Sissoko to do. And I just don't think he really, lifted his head up and looked round, because he was just driving forward. He got the shot away. I don't even think the shot was on target, was it? So, that was poor from Sissoko. And actually, if Sissoko, if we went on to draw the game or potentially lose the game, we could be having a totally different discussion about Sissoko today, because it was a massive opportunity to go. We would have gone, I think, 2-0 up at that point, wouldn't we? Or was it 1-0? I can't remember, but I think
it would have been 1-0. Yeah, I think it was about 10 minutes before we actually scored. And when I say when we scored as well, I think we've seen before in Watford teams, especially last time we was in the Premier League and we was that last couple of months to stay in the division. I felt Watford scored too early into the games, and then it was dangerous for Watford to hold on to the leads, and then we would end up conceding and then losing the games. But the game plan yesterday worked, and we scored quite late on, James, didn't we? And it was, I think, 10 minutes to go, and we scored. If you're going to score, that's the kind of the time that you need to score, isn't it, to win games? And it was perfectly timed for Watford. And I know afterwards we had a lot of added on time, but that's the kind of the time of the game. If you are to win a game, that's when you show up, isn't it? And Watford, they picked their moment, and they did well to get the goal there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd much rather put the game to bed earlier on, score, 2-3 goals, and obviously, put the opposition to bed as early on as possible. But, scoring that late on, Aston Villa, obviously, after that goal, committed players forward. There was loads of space in the counter attack. And Watford probably could have had one or two more after we scored as well. But, Aston Villa, credit to them. They did put us under pressure for the last 10 minutes. The referee added on 6 minutes. Then he seemed to find another 3 minutes from somewhere, which, I was very, very baffled about. I'm not too sure what the referee was doing there. I think there was nearly 10 minutes added time in total. But yeah, you are right. If you do score that late on, 75th, 80th minute, it's a lot harder for the opposition to get back into the game. And, you've at least really guaranteed yourself a point. If you are scoring, around the 80th minute, it's very, very hard for the opposition to come back and win the game. So, I hope that, Roy Hodgson's not planned it that way. I'd hope he'd go out and say, score as many goals as possible and put the game to bed as quickly as he can. But yeah, I think you're right. Scoring that late on, obviously, did help us in this situation.
And I was saying last week, James, just before we was wrapping up the show last week, saying I really hope the boys turned up and gave the fans something to sing about, because they've deserved it, and we've not had much for them to sing about lately. But they were in fine voice yesterday, weren't they, James? They were singing Graham Taylor's name loud and proud as well around the 73rd minute, which everyone heard him. I absolutely love that, especially going to one of his former clubs as well, where he managed Villa, and they think highly of him as well. But the song that made me chuckle was, we don't really get many humorous songs going, or we don't get the opportunity to sing it. But when at the moment we went 1-0 up, what the fans were singing, how shit must you be, we're winning away. And I absolutely love that. And I hate it when teams use it against us, when we're playing like teams that are struggling down at the bottom of the table, and they're singing it. Like, I think we've had Norwich sing it to us before, but it's great to be singing that to the other fans, isn't it, James? Especially when they're going to the games, they know it on paper. It's probably 3 points Aston Villa all day long, but Watford turn up, upset them on their big day out, and we took 3 points back to Hertfordshire, and it's so satisfying when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, credit to the fans that travelled as well, because I know there's a lot of issues with the trains after the storm, and, whether the trains would be running to Birmingham from London Euston. And, it's pretty much a packed out away end for Watford. So credit to everyone for travelling, obviously, after the storm. And yeah, it's so good. Obviously, when you're winning, the fans are pumped up, the songs are going. I'm gutted I couldn't be there, really. It was, it looked like a great away day, to be honest. And we've had a few good away days this season, actually, with Everton. We had Norwich away, and now we've had Aston Villa away. So hopefully we can add a few more to that list. But yeah, as you said, the fans were absolutely class yesterday. Great to see the players after the game giving away their boots, their shirts as well. I thought that was really, really good to see. Obviously, it's easier to do that after a win.
Yeah.
It was great to
They'll
see.
be throwing them back a bit. It was a defeat, weren't they?
No, I don't think I would. I think I'd still keep it if a player gave it to me. But yeah, it was really, really good to see, and I just hope it continues because I think we've lacked a connection between obviously the players, the club, and the fans in recent weeks and recent months, really. And yeah, yesterday, especially at the end of the game when the players come over, I thought it was superb and exactly what the fans who travelled deserved, really.
Exactly, and that's what we're saying. We want this connection with the players, and we definitely saw that yesterday. And like you say, it does help when Watford pick up victories and that. But it's a lovely gesture. They don't have to go over there and give away their shirts or their boots or whatever they want to give away. I love seeing Emmanuel Dennis. He gave away his shirt and then actually took a selfie with the fan as well. Top class character, Emmanuel Dennis, and. But it was all said about his attitude problem before. We've not really seen signs of it. I know he had a bit of a sticky patch during the time of the African Cup of Nations, but maybe he was just a bit out of form there because he looks back to his best. And when Emmanuel Dennis is playing and he's on top draw, we've definitely got a chance in staying in this division. But what that win did do yesterday, actually, what lifted Watford up a place in the table. We've overtaken Norwich in the table now. We're third bottom now instead of second bottom. And we've got a big game coming up Wednesday night, James. And Crystal Palace on Wednesday is huge. If Watford win, it does blow the relegation battle wide open, doesn't it? Because obviously we've seen Leeds lose again today. Brentford lost to Arsenal yesterday. Norwich obviously lost at Liverpool as well. Newcastle only picked up a point at West Ham, so we have gained 2 points on Newcastle. So it really does blow it wide open if we do actually get a victory. And I don't think, I even think if we get a draw against Palace as well, I think it'll be a good point in the right direction. But 3 points, it'd be absolutely massive, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, just talking about the ramifications now, if Watford win, Watford currently are on 18 points in 18th place. If Watford win and we go up to 21 points, we'll be within a point of Newcastle, we'll be within a point of Everton, 2 points of Leeds, 3 points of Brentford. And, if Watford win on Wednesday, we're dragging 3 or 4 teams, straight back into the relegation battle. So, yes, the win at Aston Villa was good. But if we then go and beat Crystal Palace on Wednesday, suddenly the teams above us will be looking down and panicking, to be honest. So I think, the pressure on Watford to get the win on Wednesday is huge. It's absolutely huge. And this is really the point of the season where it can all change, because if we then lose on Wednesday and the teams below us win again, then we're dragged back down. But if we win and we catch up the teams above us, them teams are suddenly looking below and thinking, oh crap, Watford are doing well and, that they could be taking our place. So I think the result on Wednesday is huge. I think it's a must not lose rather than a must win. As you say, I would take the draw. But obviously, if we do win and we do get the 3 points, the amount of pressure that puts on the teams above us is fantastic. And suddenly, yes, we can't get out of the relegation zone yet because there's too much of a gap to build up at the moment. But if we do win, I'm suddenly a very, very happy guy. Put it that way.
And I don't know if you agree with this, James, as well. The one team that's sticking out for me at the moment, who I think they're on a big slide as well, and it's Brentford. They are slowly falling down the table. Their results lately haven't been great, and when the results a few months back weren't great for Brentford, they was putting it down to their goalkeeper being out. But Raya's actually back now, and their results haven't improved at all. When they picked up another defeat yesterday, and like you said, they're not too far ahead of us. I think they might be about 5-6 points in front of us now. Yeah. So that 2 wins and we've caught up with them. But we're at that point of the season now where was there 14 games left? There's lots of points on the board to play for, and that 3 points at Villa is absolutely vital and so important for us, and the confidence it's going to give the boys going into this week. And I actually learned that the other day that Watford didn't actually have any training sessions on Friday as well because of a storm, which you talked about just a minute ago as well. So Roy Hodgson actually had to write a day off training with a team, and they still turned up and executed his game plan like that, which was absolutely brilliant. But going into Palace, they're going to be so full of confidence now, and we just need to start the game quickly, don't we? I think we need to start it positively and hope. What are you expecting from the game Wednesday night, James? Because obviously it's against Roy Hodgson's former club. He supposedly retired at Palace last season, but he's back in the dugout with Watford now with Ray Lewington. He'll know a lot about this Palace side, won't he? So do you reckon he'll be in the era of like Kiko and Kamara saying this is what you need to do with Zaha, or is he just going to show him clips of what Capu's done to him in the previous years?
Well, it's a very, very interesting game because obviously, Roy Hodgson originally managing Palace, Wilfried Zaha coming back to Vicarage Road. It's always great to see, and obviously Will Hughes is now at Crystal Palace as well. So the actual game is, quite a few, Watford connections in there. What am I expecting? I think Crystal Palace obviously played good football under Patrick Vieira. He's a fantastic manager by the looks of it. He plays the football that I'd want to see as a fan, really. Passing it on the floor. Young players, Conor Gallagher, Elise, Zaha's always a threat. They do play the football that I like. But obviously, as we are Watford fans, we do not like Crystal Palace whatsoever. So I think for me, I want the Vic to be hostile for Palace on Wednesday. I think the atmosphere at the Vic in recent weeks has been awful, to put it lightly. I think the fans really have been, ever since I've been going to Watford, it's probably been the worst I've ever seen it, really. Going back to Walter Mazzari, that was kind of, as bad as it got, really. But I want a hostile atmosphere, Crystal Palace. And I want to give Will Hughes a hostile atmosphere, Wilfried Zaha a hostile atmosphere. I just want to make it difficult for them. And, hopefully the players can do the job on the pitch, because I think we proved it this season that, when we want to win games, we can win them. We beat Man United, we beat Everton, we beat Norwich, we beat Aston Villa. We can win games, but I think the problem is we've played too much as individuals at times this season. Whereas against Aston Villa, we did play as a team. So as long as we, play as we did against Aston Villa, and give 100%, that's really all I can ask for. And as we said, I would take a draw, of course, but we've discussed the ramifications if Watford win the game, and the ramifications are huge. So if I was Watford, I'd be looking to attack from the off, stick with the 4-3-3 formation, because I think that benefits the players we've got, and give it to Palace. Don't sit back. Don't let them have the ball. Press them, attack them, and make life difficult for them.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, Watford fans don't really like Crystal Palace either. Personally, for me, I can't stand them, but that's just personal experience in the past. Don't know if you remember, James, but before the 1881, we had a group called the Yellow Order, and it was in the top corner of RS4 in the Rookery, and I used to be part of that. And me and my mate, back in the day, Ross, we actually took the drum to the games, and we used to bang the drum at the back of a Rookery to get the atmosphere going. And I think it was a midweek game one night. I was walking. I parked my car in Canterbury, so I was walking from Canterbury with a massive drum, because back then the club didn't really look after your equipment and that. So imagine like midweek, we had a Palace game as well midweek, and I was walking to the ground with my little sister with the drum on my shoulder, and then the next minute I was walking down past one of the fish and chip shops, and out of nowhere there was about 15 Palace fans all dressed in black. They had their balaclavas up, and they saw me with a drum, and what do? They came running over, and they jumped me. So I can't stand Palace, but that's because of that. I wouldn't have minded if they did it to me when I was on my own, but in front of my little sister, I ain't got no time for that. It's actually scum and low life, so that's why I can't stand Palace. But yeah, hopefully we pick up 3 points. And what kind of reception do you think Will Hughes is going to get this coming Wednesday? Because obviously he was a fan's favourite at Watford. We respected him. We loved him. He always played for the shirt. But there was towards the end of his Watford career, nothing on the pitch. It was what was going off in the summer, wasn't it, James? Where he didn't want to sign a new contract. And look, we don't actually know the ins and outs of what actually happened with Will Hughes. We've only heard hearsay and heard what we've heard through Adam Leventhal. But supposedly he didn't want to sign a new contract due to like clauses being put in if Watford were going to get relegated. But how do you think he's going to be received at Vicarage Road Wednesday? I can't actually make the game, so I'm looking after my daughter. But if I was there, I'd clap him, because I don't see him. I don't see why he should deserve any stick from Watford fans. Would you applaud him?
I would, but I think the general consensus is going to be negativity, just because you mentioned the stories that Adam Leventhal published in the summer. Obviously, as you say, we don't really know the ins and outs of the contract situation, but it looked like he wanted a amount of money that Watford couldn't necessarily afford, or obviously he wanted that relegation clause you mentioned removed, where if we got relegated, his wages would go down. I think because of that, I think it'll be quite mixed. Really, I think there'll be some people who as I've said, won't be happy with him because of what happened. But then you look at the alternative side, where he was instrumental in getting us to the FA Cup final. He was a crucial part of that team under Javi. And he was a quality player, and ultimately, yes, he didn't remain at Watford, but I do think hopefully he will get a good reception, but I do think it will be quite mixed. Yeah.
I just hope he has a quiet game, because when he starts flying into challenges and gets his foot on the ball, that's when Hughes at his best, isn't he? So, and then we've just seen a message come up from John Parslow, who's using, I think, his daughter's account again, which he's done before, and he says, "I hope Hughes gets a good reaction." It's John, by the way, on the daughter's account. So, cheers, John. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I totally agree. Like you say, he's done so much for Watford, and he didn't have to stick around with Watford when we actually got relegated in the Championship last time as well. And he was one of the big characters to get us back up into the Premier League. And he pulled up his sleeves in a lot of games when things weren't looking good for us, when we was trying to bounce back up for the first attempt. So he definitely deserves a good reception. And if I was there, I'll give him a good reception from the couch, James. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good.
and just quickly before we go, James, we'll do a quick score prediction as well, and then after that, I want to. John's just put up another comment quickly. There was clearly fault on both sides with Will Hughes. I think the club drew a line in the sand as they needed to protect the long-term finances, but it was a huge shame. Huge talent, but Loser is better. Do you agree with that, James? Do you think Loser's better than Will Hughes? I think age is on his side, isn't it, with Loser? He's got a lot more potential here. He's a lot more younger. You can grow and make him mature into a really good player. And the signs that we've seen so far is really encouraging, isn't it, with Imran Loser?
It is really encouraging. I'm not going to make a direct comparison between the two, just because they do play slightly, different positions. I think Will Hughes was definitely more defensive minded, whereas as we saw, against Aston Villa, Imran Loser looks to drive forward. He looks to create opportunities. But yeah, I think the potential's there for Loser to go on and be a superb player for us. And ultimately, whenever that happens at Watford, big clubs come sniffing round, as they probably will with Sarr. João Pedro will ultimately happen to him in the future as well. I think Loser has the potential to go on and be a star player for us. So yeah, definitely, Loser can by far surpass what Will Hughes has done in his career so far.
Yeah, and George White agrees with you, and John Parslow as well, saying Loser is a better player. You can't disagree with that. You can see what he's done in the Watford shirt this season as well, and he's not played many games, James, as well. We're judging him off a small handful of games, isn't it? Before he went away in the African Cup of Nations, he was starting to feature and play week in, week out, but I don't think he put a massive consecutive game of in the team together, did he? We've not seen much of him. I think we might have seen him only start maybe about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 games for Watford, but what we have seen, and it has impressed the Watford fans. And to remember, in the summer we did spend the most amount of money on him as well. And John Parslow just came up with another comment saying, I can hear the chant now. He's better than you. He's better than you. Imran Loser is better than Hughes. So yeah, get that one going, John, on Wednesday night. But yeah, quick score prediction, James. Hopeful for a result against Palace. I'm looking forward to seeing what your two are this week.
Yeah, I am hopeful. I'm a lot more hopeful than I was after the Brighton game. Realistically, I'd take a draw. So, realistically, I'll go with 1-1. But, in my heart, what I want to happen is, a 3-4-0 demolition. I want Wilfried Zaha to get sent off. I want Harry the Hornet to be, dancing in front of the Crystal Palace away, and that's what I'd like. But, realistically, I think it could end in a draw. But I'd hope Watford will go on and win the game.
Definitely. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Watford win. I do see us scoring. I do think Palace will probably score this week, but I don't think we're going to have consecutive back-to-back games of clean sheets. I think that's too much to ask for at this position at the moment in the season. Look, we've just had two clean sheets in the last 4 games, so we'll definitely take that. But I don't think we're going to get another clean sheet against Palace. They've got a good threat going forward. I like Elise. I think he's top draw. Gallagher as well. But this is actually the second time we've played Palace this season, isn't it, James? Did we play them in the cup at the start of a season, or
Yeah,
is it?
so we played them in the pre-season friendly, we played them in the cup, and then obviously we played them in the 2 league games as well. So I think at the end of the season we would have played Crystal Palace 4 times, which is very, very interesting.
Oh no, yeah, I remember we actually had other games lined up for pre-season, didn't we? Weren't we going to play Nantes and Udinese, but then
Yeah,
due to
that's
COVID
right.
restrictions, they changed it last minute. And the week before the Premier League fixtures started, we had a game with Premier League opposition Crystal Palace, which is weird because you don't see that in pre-season games unless you go off to these like US tour over to Asia when you play in those big tournaments. But George just came up and says he's going for a 1-0 Watford win. A draw is not a bad result. Yeah, me and James agree. We've said that earlier. We would take a point going into this game. But we're going to probably wrap that up now. Just quickly before we go, me and James were messaging during the week because of obviously there was a storm going on, and James was making me laugh. And I put something up on my Instagram maybe Wednesday morning, wasn't it? And I took a video of my garden saying I wonder how many like fence panels were going to last. But at the end of the day, James messaged me and said that 3 of his fence panels are actually fallen victim. Did that stay at 3, James, or has it got worse? Because we've had bad weather again today, haven't we? It's hailed down and the wind's got going again. I think a storm Frankie or Franklin's on its way. Are you going to have any fence panels left?
I think 3 is the number at the moment. I mean, my garden's right outside my bedroom window, so I'm always looking out and keeping an eye on them. But at the moment, 3 fence panels is the damage from Storm Eunice. So we're just waiting for these storms to pass, and once the weather's settled down, yeah, we'll try and put them back up. But yeah, 3 fence panels is the final total. But luckily, I'm still alive. Ben's still alive. So yeah, Storm Eunice didn't take me and Ben, but it has taken 3 of my garden fence, unfortunately.
The worst thing that happened to me, mate. Isla was off sick on Friday, so I was looking after her. But one minute I was looking after her, the next minute I just saw my wheelie bin going into the bush in the garden. I thought I'll take the wheelie bin over a fence, but oh mate, it was so funny, and I was just showing her, and she was just a bit clueless with what was actually going on. But yeah, absolutely. At least we're still here. I hope everyone's safe from the storms as well, and hopefully it all dies down soon because it's a bit grim outside at the moment. But at least Watford have picked up 3 points at the weekend. We're feeling positive. We've got 3 points on the board. We've got another clean sheet on the board. We've closed the gap on Newcastle a little bit. If we pick up 3 points against Palace, we drag other teams into our relegation fight, which is what we want to do. But who knows? Fingers crossed for a good result against Palace. Me and James will be back Thursday to discuss it. We're playing Wednesday, aren't we, James? So yeah. We'll be back Thursday to do a review of that game. So you'll see us again then. Maybe Mike might join us. Hopefully Mike does. We've not had him on for so long, but it's a midweek game, so hopefully he's able to find a stream and he can come on and join us because it'd be good to see that old face again. But yeah, cheers for everyone who's watched and interacted with us on YouTube again. Don't forget to like the page, subscribe. Also, just quickly before we go, this won't be going out as a podcast until I think Tuesday evening, because just to let you guys know, Mike does all the editing on the podcast to go out on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But when Mike said he was stepping back a little bit, me and James wanted to give you guys content still. So that's why we do a YouTube now. So that uploads automatically onto YouTube and you can watch that at whatever point in your lives. But with editing podcasts and that's all down to Mike, and we don't have access to that. So that's why podcasts come out a little bit later. So if you do want our reaction straight away, head over to the YouTube channel, and that's where me and James upload all our videos and that. So just wanted to let you guys know that.
Faces then as well.
Yeah, you get to see our beautiful faces, and you might even see James's Lego set that he was telling me about last week, which he said he was going to finish this week then, but he's been busy, so he hasn't had time to show me what he's been up to. But hopefully he can show us all next week. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and we will be back Thursday. Stay safe and come on, you Horns.